Welcome to She Lancer, Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. I'm your host, Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and this podcast are the audio versions of my live Q&A chats on YouTube. If you'd like to be part of the live Q&A chats, come on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. I'm live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST. We talk about voiceover, the business of voiceover, audiobooks, and so much more. Find more information on my website, voiceoverangela.com. Enjoy today's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for another live Q&A session here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you tips, tricks, techniques, things that I do every day in my own voiceover business. And then we get together in these weekly chats to talk about a topic or five, or just listen to me tangent for an hour. If you're not new here, then you know. Every week we have a new poll, and that poll is typically the topic for today, but we'll see how it goes. Today's poll is, how often do you get frustrated with the time it takes you to record long-form narration? And I did see somebody mention that in the chat that frustrated it is a strong word, but, you know, I'm limited in characters, so I couldn't get too specific, but frustrated, or maybe you're frustrated with yourself, perhaps, with how long it takes you. Because as you know, especially when we're talking about audiobook narration, time is money, right? The more time you spend on something is less time you can spend on something else. And the quicker you can get an audiobook done, the more money, if you know. So how do you get past this? How do you get past feeling frustrated, or perhaps that you are taking too much time to get through long-form voiceover because you are, making too many mistakes, or you're having to retake sentence after sentence, or whatever it is. Maybe I also saw another comment about consistency in voice tone, or the way that your voice sounds. So there's a lot of different ways to go about and approach this. There's a lot of nuances, I should say, to long-form narration that we could probably address today. But for those of you that don't know, that's mostly what I do. That's most of what I'm hired for, is long-form narration. So that's most of what I do. And long-form narration is it really could be anything apart from commercial work, right? Because we have commercial work, we have some of the shorter jobs that are, a minute or so of narration. And then you have long form, which could be audiobooks, it could be medical narration, it could be e-learning course narration, even some, I don't know I guess video games, yeah, because all that dialogue and all of, I guess that could be long form. There could be, walkthroughs. There could be audio description. It could be any number of things that is generally longer than a commercial, right? So that could be a lot of different things. But there's a couple of things that we talk about in my group sessions with my Platinum group. And one of the things that comes up the most is reading ahead with your eyes. And that does take practice. That takes a little bit of time to get accustomed to, and to train yourself to read the words, but your eyes are looking about a sentence or two ahead if you get really good at it. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to see what's coming up next. I mean, generally speaking, you want to read through the script at least once before you start narrating it, so you have an idea of what you're talking about. You're looking up pronunciations to words perhaps that you're unfamiliar with. Excuse me, that will definitely help to speed things up as well, if you don't have to try to fight through a word. If you're already taking the time to practice that pronunciation of the word, that will definitely help. And maybe even modifying the script to add a phonetic spelling to the word that you're trying to pronounce. Or even marking up the script in terms of adding pauses where, maybe there weren't any, by adding a comma or some sort of a indicator for yourself. And I find a lot of voice actors have different sort of markup techniques. I mean, ultimately use what works for you to mark up scripts. We didn't even look at the poll. I just went straight into tangent. God. But it looks like the majority of you say often, with feeling frustrated. And then a close second would be, I haven't started yet. So good. I'm hoping that something that we say today will help you with this. But going back to what I was saying before, about looking ahead will definitely help you with not only looking up the pronunciations of words and adding up perhaps a phonetic spelling, marking up the script, right? But also another benefit to looking ahead would be the pronunciation coming up. Not pronunciation, punctuation, not pronunciation. We already covered pronunciation. Where is my head today? Punctuation. So if there is a exclamation point or a question mark, or if there's something coming up, perhaps in parentheses or in quotations, or, that way your brain is sort of prepared for what is coming next. Because if it's a question, of course, the tone of that sentence is going to change, right? You need to pose it as a question. Or if it's an exclamation point, you need to stress or, add some energy to that sentence, right? Another way to approach long-form narration that works for people is staying in the moment, right? We got one way to look at it is to read ahead with your eyes to reduce mistakes, or you could just stay in the moment. And I find that approach works for a lot of people too, right? And when I say stay in the moment, that means giving every word of that sentence your full attention. You're not reading ahead, but you are staying with the feeling or the emotion. You're fully focused on what it is that you're saying at that time. I really like that approach. I think more for audiobooks, but if you're looking at any kind of other like e-learning or course narration, I find the reading ahead works better for me. And my point in all of this is really choosing what works best for you. Ultimately, you're going to make mistakes. There isn't a one easy way or like an easy button to completely avoid all mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. We're human. We make mistakes. It's totally understandable. But by finding an approach that works for you, right? It could be a combination of some of these things where you, as always, we always say, take the time to fully understand and interpret the script, right? Understand what it is that you're saying as the narrator, like the W's, right? Who are you as the narrator? Who are you talking to, right? Who is the audience that's going to be hearing this voiceover? And why are you saying it? What is the purpose of this voiceover, right? Is it a call to action? Are you trying to make people angry? Are you trying to make them feel a certain emotion? Are you just relaying information? Why are you relaying that information? Are you looking for sponsorships? Are you looking for collaboration? Are you just sharing information? Is it a soft sales pitch, right? If you understand these basic 3 W's and take the time to interpret that script, you have most of the battle won there, right? And then also in that interpretation phase, looking up any words that need maybe a phonetic spelling for the pronunciation. Maybe you need to practice saying that word a few times so it doesn't sound unnatural coming out of your mouth. It sounds like you've said it a million times before. And you'll find this mainly in, medical narration. Because if the W of who you are is a doctor, if you're a doctor relaying information about, let's just say, a new medical device to a group of other doctors, you need to sound like you say this word all the time, right? As the doctor yourself. So taking the time to understand those W's in script interpretation, and then also marking up the script if you need to, that will definitely help. And then training yourself to either read ahead with your eyes or just staying in the moment. Whatever really works for you to get through it at a faster clip or a quicker pace, whatever is more comfortable for you. But ultimately, you're just going to make mistakes. So don't be too hard on yourself if you do. I still do. I think we all do. It's just normal, right? And we all have flubs. It's a normal thing. Let's see. So just taking a quick look at the poll here. So we have 31 votes. It looks like 13% of you said you get frustrated every time. 42% of you said often. I said I think I would put myself in the often category as well. And I would agree. Frustrated is probably a strong word, but I wish I would make fewer mistakes. But I know that there's no such thing as, like a perfect read through. Some people are just better at reading through long sentences without making mistakes than other people are. And I understand and realize and recognize that. 19% of you said you never get frustrated. And I guess that could be me too. Because again, frustrated is probably a strong word. Just seeing some of the comments. Let's get over to the comments and see what you guys have to add. And if you are also a voice actor that does a lot of long form narration, whether it be audiobooks, medical narration, even like documentaries, any kind of long form narration, and you have a technique that works for you or a tip that you'd like to share, then please share it in the comments. Let's see. I think there were a few people in here before I even got here this morning. Paul was first in. Hey, Paul. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Good morning from South Arkansas. I don't even know how to say that. How do you say that? Dwight was here. Good morning, mentor extraordinaire Angela the Great. I can't answer the poll today as I am on my way to a mastering class and can't make today's live, so I wish you and my fellow Angelistas a great VO day. Good for you, Dwight. Caesar's here. Hey, Caesar. Caesar says, hi, Angela. My frustration stems more from having to do retakes. And that's, when you say retakes, do you mean like you are like a pickup? Like you have to fix something, like a revision? Like you have to fix something later? Or are you talking about a retake in the moment as you're recording? Because that could be a mistake, right? That could be what I'm referring to as a mistake. Either way, neither one of those situations is fun, but necessary in what we do, right? It's just one of the things that we need to deal with as a voice actor. I envy folks who can do whole paragraphs without stumbling. I think I'm getting better. All I have to do is narrate more. And you do. I think even myself from 6-7 years ago when I first started, I stumbled a lot reading out loud. And I have to be honest, I think some of that had to do with confidence or in trusting myself to, like my instincts, trusting my instincts to just feel what, like, to just say what the sentence felt like to me, right? Not doubting myself. Or sometimes your mouth just, trips up on you, and that happens. Or if your mind is wandering about something else, right? You're not quite completely focused on what it is that you're doing. It clearly could be any kind of reasoning for, having to do retakes or stumbling. But all these things are human, so don't beat yourself up. Caesar says, so far I've optimized every other aspect of my processing, including punch and roll and mic technique. My hurdle really is being able to do more than 2 sentences without stumbling. I think I'm trying to remember all the times that you've read for us in the Platinum group. And my first inclination is that I think you doubt yourself a little bit. I don't think that I think you're just not trusting the instincts. Because I have heard some of the finished work that you've done, and you are completely spot on in those instances. But I think when you're narrating, you might doubt yourself a little bit. Just a shot in the dark, I think. But that's what my instincts tell me. And I think you can do more than 2 sentences without stumbling. You just feel like it's every other sentence. That said, hello, Angela. I just put out 2 more websites working on clearing my backlog. Very excited to present these on the next website review this year. That's awesome. Can't wait to see them. I think we'll have to do that next month. I think in March we'll do another website review in the Platinum group. And that was something else I wanted to touch on. As far as optimizing or streamlining your workflow, right? Not just in maybe avoiding mistakes. I don't know if you can avoid mistakes. That's why they're mistakes, right? They're not meant to happen. You can't really avoid them. But as far as streamlining your work processes is there's 2 different ways to go about recording, and which have to do with mistakes or retakes. Is you can either record and edit on the fly with punch and roll, or you can do the clicker method or the clap or snap, whichever way that you go about it, and then just edit out the retakes later in post, which is the way that I do it. I've tried to learn punch and roll at least twice. I just either don't have the patience, not coordinated, maybe just, old dog, new tricks. I'm not sure what it is. I'm just comfortable with the way that I do it, which is the clicker method. I think for me, the pros far outweigh the cons for clicker versus punch and roll, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that would argue the opposite, that the pros outweigh in punch and roll, far outweigh the clicker method. There's something else, you just do what feels right to you, right? There isn't like a right or a wrong way to do it. Just do what feels comfortable. I find that the clicker method gives me options. It is something that doesn't take me out of the moment, right? If I'm trying to focus on getting something across and I make a mistake, I can just click it and then immediately retake the sentence instead of telling my brain, okay, I need to stop. I need to take my playhead back to where, at the beginning of the mistake that I just made and then try to find where I was again mentally. That to me just takes me too far out of the moment. So I'd rather just click, mark the mistake, and then retake it again immediately and then move on with life. And then, yes, I have to go back and edit, but that doesn't really take me a whole lot of time. I think ultimately, if you're doing the mistake correction on the fly with punch and roll, and then if you take that amount of time to do that versus the way that the clicker method works, I think it's a wash. It has to be a wash. Because even with punch and roll, you have to, reassess the file just to make sure that the effects are all there, that the mouth noise is gone, that any weird breaths are eliminated, that there isn't anything in the audio file that shouldn't be there. So, I mean, to me, in my head, it would be just a wash in time, right? They're about the same. I could be wrong. I don't know. But again, there really isn't a right or wrong way to do it. Whatever way feels better for you. Just a little tangent about recording options. Paul is here. Hey, Paul. Paul says to Caesar, I've just submitted a book today, my 29th. It runs 8 hours and 50 plus minutes, and it took me 18 days. Wow. I reckon I spent upwards of 60 hours, so I also need to pick up the pace. And I think that's still pretty normal. I mean, for your 29th, I would think it would probably take a little bit less time at this time. But some people like to take their time, producing these audiobooks. So I don't think that's really a bad thing, right? Because I would think in the beginning, most of us take, if a finished hour is about 9,300 words, we're talking audiobooks here. A finished hour is about 9,300 words. And a finished hour is everything it took you to get to that finished hour. So all the narration time, all the editing time, all the mastering time, all the formatting time that it took you to get to that finished hour could be anywhere from 2 to 5 hours to get to that finished hour. That's a general rule of thumb for us in the beginning because we're still learning. We're still learning everything, right? It's usually twice as long to narrate, so 2 hours to narrate a finished hour, and then another 3 to 5 hours to edit, format, and master it, right? So that could one finished hour in the beginning would take us a long time. But as you continue down this path, and the more and more you do it, the faster you're going to get at it. The more streamlined your process is going to be, the better your understanding about how the effects work, and maybe you have finally found the correct configuration, right, of all the effects working together so you're satisfied with the way that you sound, because we're just continuously tweaking our sound in the first year, easy, if not 2 years. Maybe it doesn't really ever end. I don't know. But I think at this point I'm at about a 1 to 1.5, maybe 2 hours, maybe 1 to 1.5. That's my ratio. So in the beginning, a finished hour would be a 1 to maybe 8 hour ratio, right? For every finished hour, it took you maybe 8 hours to get there. I think at this point I'm at about for every hour, it's about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, depending on what it is, to get it done. So, but then that's me. Some people are happy with taking more time to get it done. Caesar says to Paul, oh my, what would you say is your Achilles heel? Is it the editing, processing, or the performance? Paul says the performance definitely not helped that this book had 70 plus different characters. That'll definitely take you some time, for sure. All the different character voices. And those will take time, and I think it's a good thing that you do take your time with those, especially when there's so many different characters. So I don't know if you want to focus. I mean, it's always good to streamline processes, for sure, but you want to take your time with that many characters, for sure. Donnie G is here. Morning. Pam is here. Hey, Pam. How long do you take in script prep? Do you mark up your script so your eye might catch those stumble points ahead of time? It depends on, for me, it depends on what kind of script it is. If it's something very technical or perhaps medical narration, I will definitely look up the word pronunciations first. Or if there's terminology I'm just unfamiliar with, I'll look up the definitions of them. So that way I, again, sound like I know what I'm talking about, because that is my job. in medical narration. It's usually, someone who has developed a medical device and it's a sales pitch to, so you have to sound like you know what the heck you're talking about, right? You have to sound like you say these words every single day. I think it just depends on what kind of script it is. At this point, I have become pretty familiar with saying very large words. So I've learned to sort of sound them out, but I would say more so in the beginning. I would take probably 20 minutes with the script and look up those words that I need to pronounce or need the definitions to. I would even type in phonetic spellings. I would add punctuation or notes even to myself if I needed a note of a reminder of whatever it was, if I needed to add a pause or a silence. But most of the time the clients will tell you. They'll insert that into the script where there needs to be a pause or, something like that. I think I'm overthinking it. But currently, maybe 10 minutes to mark up a very technical or, unfamiliar word heavy kind of a script, perhaps. Oh, good morning. Rustic Hillbilly is here. Good morning, Rustic Hillbilly. How is Oregon today? Reading Time with Poppy says, I marked that I get frustrated, but I am optimistic that I will get better, both in performance and editing. And you will. That's just like anything else that we do, that we put in the time to practice. You will get better. You will. And as I always say, joining groups, having other peers that you can bounce ideas off of, ask questions, for support, mental support even, business support, whatever it is, will help to expedite that process. Because you may come across somebody that is in a similar situation or has been in a similar situation as yourself, and you ask a question, and they say, you know what, I was just there in that place, and this is what I did, and this may help you too. So having groups, community is always a plus. Reading Time with Poppy says, Fiverr question if I may, of course. I just got to the part setting up my profile where you set questions to ask the buyer, the requirements, right? It took me by surprise. I asked about desired style and which part of the demo they want emulated, anything else. I think it's in my freelance voiceover tips playlist. I have quite a few videos about Fiverr and setting up the requirements, the pricing, all of those things. But the requirements, depending on what kind of gig it is, your first requirement is going to ask them to upload their final draft of the script. And then also note that if there are any changes to the script after the order is placed, there will be an additional re-record fee. Because if they're placing an order with you, it should be a finalized script. So make sure that you highlight that first question is for the final draft of the script. And then your second question would be, please provide me with any pronunciation tips, any kind of direction. If you have examples of how you want this to sound, please include them here. If there's any notes, any direction, anything I need to know to get your job done, please please include it here. That would be your second question. Your third question would be asking about commercial rights. Do you need commercial rights? This is what they're for. I'll just explain this. Do you need commercial rights? If my voiceover is going to be used online in any way, shape, or form to promote your product, service, or business, you will need commercial rights. Do you need them? And include a multiple choice, yes or no. They have to answer it. It's a required question. Make sure you add it as a required question. They have to answer it. And then the question immediately after that, separate question, would be, in addition to commercial rights, do you need full broadcast rights? You will need full broadcast rights if my voiceover is going to be used online and in paid marketing, paid advertising in any way, shape, or form to promote your product, business, or service. You will need full broadcast rights in addition to commercial rights because they are tiered. Online, paid marketing, right? They're tiered usage. Do you need them? Yes or no? And that's also a multiple choice question. They have to answer yes or no. And then when a client places the order, if they had marked either of those yes, but did not include commercial rights or full broadcast rights in their order, your immediate response is, hey, thank you for the order. I see that you needed commercial rights. You indicated that you needed commercial rights. I'm going to go ahead and add them for you here. And that's when you send the upgrade or the add-on with the order for the commercial rights. If they indicated they needed both commercial or either and or, right? If they indicated they needed full broadcast, that means they need both tiers of usage, right? We just went over that. Commercial rights and full broadcast rights. So then you would say, thank you for the order. I see that you indicated you're going to be using this in paid advertising, so I'm adding the rights you're going to need for that here. Any other requirements you're going to need could be perhaps around music, if you include any other like add-on services with your voiceover that have options or variables to them. Like if they wanted music, what kind of music do you want? That sort of thing. But those are basically the 4 questions you should have in every single voiceover gig, right? Upload your script here, final draft of the script. Second question is any direction notes, anything that I need to know, pronunciation tips, right? This is especially helpful for audiobooks if there's made-up words or stuff like that. How do you want me to pronounce these? Third question is about commercial rights. Fourth question is about full broadcast. You should have those 4 at least on every voiceover, apart from audiobooks. Audiobooks, don't worry about the rights usage. All of that is included in the per finished hour fee. I hope that answers your question. Sarah Clark says, frustrated is a strong word. It is, but I'm always looking to get faster. Punch and Roll was a game changer. That alone got my recording time to about 1.5 times finished hour. And it works for some people. I don't know. I guess I'm just not coordinated enough for Punch and Roll, or it just takes me too far out of where I'm at, you know. But that's good. Tanya says, evening all. Evening to you. Becca Sue says, good morning. Good morning, Becca Sue. Chat with Lorna says, good morning from snowy Oregon. Oh, how pretty. I struggle with voice consistency on long form. Sounds different from session to session. And it's going to. I mean, I try to narrate. Every time I need to narrate something, I'll narrate around the same time of the day, where I'm sort of warmed up but not quite tired or too tired, or it's been X amount of time since my last cup of coffee, or whatever it is. I try to record around the same time every day. So it's kind of consistent, but it's going to sound slightly different from day to day to day. It's an organic machine, you know, it's an organic thing. It's not going to be machine-like consistent every single day, but you need to make sure that you can do all that you can do to, you know, control what you can control, I guess is what I'm saying. So as long as your environment does not change, your settings do not change, your mic placement, your chair, whatever it is, nothing in your studio changes. You're equidistant from the mic every time you use it. Perhaps you hydrate really well before you start narrating. As long as you do all that you can do, you know, do your vocal warm-ups, your mouth, your face exercises, all the things. Just control what you can control and do your best with it. I bet that what you consider to be vastly different from session to session probably isn't even noticeable to the person listening, right? There's a lot of times when we're just way too critical about things, about ourselves, when we don't need to be, right? We just need to release that hold on ourselves, those limiting beliefs that we put on ourselves, and just do the best that you can do. Only focus on what you can control, on what you can't, not on what you can't. It's very liberating. Anne says, good morning from sunny Arizona. It is sunny. It's been very pleasant the last few days. I wonder what this means for summer. Sarah says, however, are there particular word sound combos I should highlight on the pre-read so I'm less likely to stumble? Or are everyone's hard sounds going to be different? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Particular word sound combos. I think with practice, what has been a lot easier for me are the sight words, like recognizing words a little bit faster by reading aloud. I'm not sure what you mean by word like contractions or hard sounds going to be different. I think my instincts are telling me that everyone's going to be a little bit different. Like what words make me stumble may not make you stumble, and vice versa. So I think reading it out loud and discovering for yourself where you may have a struggle. Because also keep in mind that the spoken word and the written word are two different things. So when you see perhaps a longer sentence with a handful of commas in it, indicated where there's a pause or, may not be necessary in the spoken word. So if you're marking up a script, you can either delete the comma or you can add a new comma where you think there should be a pause that makes more sense spoken out loud than read with your eyes. So ultimately, do what you have to do. Do what you feel is right to make it sound the way it's intended to sound, the way you think and the client wants it to sound, right? I hope that answers your question. My cup of tea says, morning, y'all. Morning to you. Becca Sue says, I've only started practicing with long-form narration and using my DAW to punch and roll. Laughing at myself has helped too. And that's great. Great. Laugh at yourself. Have fun. You guys have to remember what we do is fun. So make it fun. Have fun. Play. Let go. And just be a goofball. Explore new facial expressions and sounds and have a mirror even in your booth. And make yourself smile. Most of what we do has to be with a smile anyway. So make yourself smile. Have fun. Right? Whenever you're sitting in your booth and you're feeling like upset with yourself or frustrated or whatever it is, just think of maybe the last job that you absolutely hated and you could go back to doing that. This is heck more fun. Tanya says, I struggle with mouth noise, but there are some great YouTube videos that have helped. I'm still working on mic technique. Yeah, mouth noise is another human thing that we can only do so much to control. I think for me, I struggle a lot with mouth noise too. Staying hydrated definitely helps. Green apples, citrus definitely helps. There are lozenges, sprays, staying away from dairy will definitely help. And of course, there's always the isotope RX10, or is it even RX11 now? I don't even know. But the isotope suite of advanced audio repair, right, with the mouth declick plugin. That singular purchase that I made, 5 years ago now at this point, when I first made it as RX7, was probably one of the best purchases I've ever made, because that singular plugin focuses on the organic click of the mouth, the mouth clicks, the mouth noise. And that will eliminate however much of it you want to eliminate. And I think that alone has cut my editing time down by 80% easy. And then it's paid for itself over and over and over and over again over the years. So definitely helpful. And for those of you asking, I think I have it here on a banner, or do I? Isotope. I thought I did. Do I? Oh, I don't have it. izotope.com. You're looking for the RX10 or even RX11 advanced audio repair bundles. The mouth declick is available there's 3 different packages. There's Elements, Standard, and Advanced. The mouth declick plugin is available in the Standard and the Advanced, of course. They don't offer it in the basic Elements bundle. But definitely worth it, 110%. Lisa says, it actually doesn't bother me too much for how long it takes to narrate. I actually just imagine I'm reading to my children when they were little. And that's going to be helpful, but not for everything, right? Because if we go back to the doctor's scenario, I don't think having a picture of my son in here is going to help me with that, if I need to sound like I'm talking to another group of doctors. But definitely depending on what you're narrating, for sure. Anne says, I am practicing my punch and roll technique on 2 nonfiction books I have right now. I think it is helping speed up the process. Not sure how that will feel in a fiction story. Probably about the same. I worry about the feeling of interrupting your flow. I'm not trying to put new worries in your head when I give you options. I'm just more or less sharing that there isn't really a right or wrong way to do this, right? There are many different ways to achieve that final outcome, and what works best for you may not work best for me, or vice versa, of course. But I'm not trying to put interrupting the flow, or if something is working for you, just stick with it. I'm not trying to make you go, oh crap, well, what happens if this happens, right? Don't do that to yourself. Just stick with it, continue to learn it, streamline that process, and you'll be just fine. So if you're already in the throes of learning punch and roll and you're finding success with it, then keep going and use that process for everything. Right? It doesn't matter if it's an audiobook, fiction, nonfiction. It doesn't matter if it's e-learning or if it's a commercial. It works for everything once you get it down. Same thing with the clicker method. Whichever way is more comfortable for you, stick with it and it'll work for everything, right? It'll just be second nature at some point, right? Oh, we got a super chat. Hold on. Wow, we have a lot of comments. Have I just been like on super tangent today? I feel like it. Sean Lester, thank you, Sean. Thank you for the super chat. Sean says, my frustration is the desire to keep narrating, but my voice starts to fry. Yeah, me too. I hydrate, I take breaks, but alas, I must give in to the rules of physiology. And you have to listen to your body when that happens. You know, when I have a lot of narration to do and I hate to push through and like totally ignore what my body's telling me, if I start to get that fry and I'm tired and I'm dehydrated and I just need to take a break, but I just have too much to get done and I decide I'm going to push through, what I'll do is I'll take a break. I'll take like an hour. I'll hydrate and then I'll go make myself some tea. And a great tea that I love to use for this reason is the throat coat tea. I think I put it on my website under recommended gear. It's the what is the name of the company that makes it? If you go to Amazon, make it super easy. Go to Amazon and search throat coat tea and it'll come up. I think there's 2 different flavors now. There's the regular and then there's also like a eucalyptus, I think. But that tea specifically helps to kind of lubricate the throat and sort of helps with the fry. There's also like lozenges and things. You know, there's all kinds of things available to you. Again, something else that you just have to decide on what works better than something else. Some people like vocal sprays There's the lozenges, there's teas, there's, just taking a nap maybe. But ideally, you want to listen to your body and give yourself a break if you need it. But if you need to push through, there are different things that you can do to push through if you have to. But I try to not do that if you don't have to. Good God, we have a lot of comments that I have not got to yet. If there's a lot of back and forth chit chat, I probably won't stop on those comments. But if there's a question or comment directly for me, then I'll read that. That way we can try to get through all of them here. Peak Parable says, it is the nature of audiobooks. If you don't like it, then consider doing 3 hours or less audiobooks. Commercial and other narration is shorter. That could help change up the mix. Yeah, if you're not super comfortable or a big fan of long-form narration, to Peak Parables' point, stick with shorter books. There's a lot of informational, self-help, nonfiction books that are about an hour or less, finished hour or less, or even up to 3 hours is kind of what I recommend if you can manage it, 3 hours or less. But every once in a while, you may have somebody that offers you a 10-hour audiobook, and then that's when you need to make the decision on whether or not you're going to do it. But if you're not comfortable with it, then stick with the shorter form stuff until you get up to the point where you are more comfortable with it. And then look at the larger audiobooks. Sarah says, if I flub a sentence more than twice, it's a better use of my time to take a 5-minute break to reset. Oh, girl, I can't tell you how many times I've flubbed 5-6 times. It's not often, but every once in a while it happens. But if I get up to go take a break at that point, I think, I guess it really, it could go either way. If I get up to go take a break, I'd rather just get whatever it is that I'm trying to get done apart from audiobooks, because audiobooks I can stop at any point and come back to it. But if it's like a big e-learning project and I've told myself, okay, I'm going to finish sections 1 through 3 before I go take a break, if I don't finish those sections and I'm mad at myself for not meeting that goal, which is silly, I know. But again, if that works for you, if you're starting to make more mistakes more often, if you're stumbling over words more often, then it might be a good time to just get up and go take a walk. Give yourself a break. Give your brain a reset moment. I don't think you should be sitting or working in here for more than 2 or 3 hours max anyway. I think it's not good to be sitting down that long if you sit in your studio. Get up, go walk around, go make some tea, go make some lunch, do the laundry, walk the dog, whatever it is, take a nap, go to the gym. But those mental breaks are good as well to sort of reprocess or to, perhaps even see something in a different way. Or if something's just not coming out the way that you want it to or the way that it should, it might be a good time to go take a break. Jim says, reading ahead generally makes me read too fast. Yep, and I hear that all the time. So if that's the case for you, then it might be better for you to just, read and stay in the moment if that approach works better for you. Peak Parable says, I don't necessarily get frustrated with long form. I just got a contract for a 22-hour book on a subject I enjoy. Where it gets difficult is when the rights holder comes back for corrections due to things like character voice is not the right voice, but can't give clear direction on what they want. They just say, do it better. Yes, and that is frustrating when you're not quite sure what it is that you are expected to deliver and you can't really get a good explanation of what the expectation actually is. That is tough. And for those of you that are newer to this industry, that I have found that doesn't happen very often, but it can and does happen. If If a client can't articulate what it is they're looking for, I ask them for an example. Is there something that you've seen that has, perhaps given you the idea of what you want? Can you share that with me? If there's something that specific that you're looking for, because more often than not, they've seen it, heard it somewhere else, and they're trying to emulate that. Can you share that YouTube link with me, or that whatever it is? Can you share that with me so I can see what you want? That way I have a better understanding of what you want, and I can try to emulate that as best I can. That's typically when I go there, when they can't really articulate or aren't very clear with what they want. Just send me an example of what you're looking for. Otherwise, I'm shooting in the dark, and you have to bear with me. Tanya says, 17 years reading aloud to classes of children under 11 has helped me with speed and reading ahead. Consider reading to your local school children. Teachers will love you. I bet. That's a good thing. You're reading out loud, period. Do it. Gary Micheloni says, I've been using Descript for the last few months, and it is simple. Just like editing a Word or a Google Doc. I remember you mentioning that before. Not yet on ACX, but for all other narration. I have an audiobook coming up. We'll see. Keep us posted. Sarah says to Tanya, us librarians and teachers do have a bit of a head start when it comes to mastering long-form narration. Caesar says, achieving a fine balance between enunciating and smooth, natural delivery is also a skill I need to master. I'm certainly becoming more aware of it, but enunciation is a tough habit to break. But I think that nuance is what helps to make your voiceovers unique and different in conjunction with your voice. That's what makes your approach different, I think. Peak Parable says, one thing that has helped me with long form is putting in milestone rewards. Yes, celebrate everything. If you have to make yourself little goals, do it. I complete this part, then I get to go take a 5-minute break and play with the dog. That has helped me make the work go better. I love that. Gregory says, good morning, Gregory. Good morning, Angela's Angels. I don't mind long-form narration or the retakes. It's irritating when the acoustics totally change during retakes, even though nothing has physically changed. Yeah, that is annoying. And I had that happen to me yesterday. I was recording something. It was long form. I was recording something like sections of something. And I had to stop because, as you just heard, there was a loud truck or something that went by. I think it was an airplane. So I stopped the recording and waited for the airplane to go by. And then once it was far enough away, I restarted the recording on the same audio file, and it sounded just slightly different. I didn't move. I just sat here. I don't know why that happens, but it wasn't noticeable enough, that it made that much a difference. It was different to my ear because my ear is a little bit more attuned to my space and my sound, but the person on the other end may or may not even notice. Florida D says, no to medical narration. Way too hard for me to enjoy. Respect to those who do. Caesar said, I answered all the time because frustration is my natural state. A simple flub can send me into a table-flipping rage. I don't believe that. That terrifies most living beings within a 5-mile radius. Arkansas, phonetic, I get it. You guys are funny. Donuts. Eric Grimes says, greetings. Sometimes, just in case you guys, donuts. There you go. Eric Grimes says, greetings. Sometimes I get stuck on a word or phrase and have to redo it several times to get it right. I save my funniest flubs in a bloopers file just for fun. Helps me from getting frustrated. And that is a great point, Eric. If you make yourself a folder of flubs. Even if you're filming yourself, that would be better for social media content. If you know that you're going to be recording something that has the potential for flubs and bloopers, then record yourself doing it. That's social media content. Or, at the very least, save all of those bloopers into a file before you completely cut them out, right? Copy them, paste them into a bloopers file. and then compile them later for a bloopers reel for social media content. And then you could have some sort of a static image to go along with it, like my bloopers of the week or something like that. Gold. You never know what's going to come out when it's not intended. Caesar says, no retake in the moment. That happens all the time. Sometimes I need 6 to 60 takes to get a sentence just right. Same. Sometimes it takes me quite a few to get through. Like if the wording of the sentence isn't quite natural or is just a little bit weird, but you have to say what's there. So you have to maybe retake it 10 different times to make sure that it sounds as natural as it can, even though it's maybe not perfectly worded. It's not quite word salad, but it could have been worded a little bit better to make it more smooth, but that is what's there and that is what you have to read. You know, might take a few times. Kimberly says, P&R has been a life-altering experience for me. Clicker worked fine, but created more frustration for me during editing. P&R note, happy camper here. Peak Parable says, try out for jobs that you like. The 22-hour book is on World War II submarines. Oh, interesting. I absolutely love history and read them for fun. Now when gonna get paid for it. By doing a subject you like makes it easier, for sure. Jim says, but how do you keep your speaking speed at one level? If I could reach into your brain and click the switch for you, I would love to. I would tell yourself to be cognizant when you're reading aloud and you're reading too fast. You know you're reading too fast. You're going to have to just consciously slow down to about 50% and then maybe a little bit faster at 75%. And then try to maintain that consistency at that speed. That's just something that you're going to have to figure out by a little bit of trial and error to get to the speed that you're shooting for, if that's what you're asking. Jean says, good morning, everyone. A question I have is, how do you keep from getting gravelly or going hoarse? I can't go past a couple of hours before getting hoarse. Going back to what we were saying earlier, taking lots of breaks, making sure that you're hydrated. Take a tea break, invest in some teas, become a tea snob and get some teas. They're very beneficial, the non-caffeinated kind. Or if you're a caffeine freak, get the caffeinated kind. Either way, it's good for the throat. And tea is better than coffee because coffee's a little bit, it's got more of like especially if you put creamer and stuff in it, it just makes the mouth noise worse. But warm liquids, you can either, even like some doctors say, gargle with salt water. I mean, I'm not a doctor, of course. Don't take this as medical advice, but teas have always helped me, and specifically the throat coat tea has been a game changer. Jim says frustration is an accurate word, face it. Yeah, for some people, it's really frustrating. Eric says, I also greatly prefer the clicker method for the reasons you stated. Also gives you the option to save bloopers. Yeah, I like to have options. I like to have the options in selecting the take that I think, because sometimes the second retake is better than the fifth retake. In the moment, the fifth retake was the best, but going back and listening, the second retake was better than the fifth. I like to have those options. Anne says, I found holding onto a clicker introduced unintentional noise when I didn't want it. Can you explain how you place your clicker? It's just in my hand. I keep it in my hand, but I know what you mean. These things can make a little bit of noise if you allow them to. I just keep it in my hand, solid, like I'll keep my thumb on the clicker. I'll scroll with one hand and keep this in my other hand, but not up like this. It's usually in my lap. But you just have to stay still. That is something that you learn very quickly as a voice actor, that, jewelry, the way that you're positioned, you don't want to move a whole lot, or don't have clothing on that makes noise when you move. If you do use the clicker method, to make sure that, nothing on you or that you're holding is going to make noise while you're recording. Your phone notifications are off while you're recording. That's a big one. Your computer notifications are off while you're recording. Nothing is allowed to make noise. Steve Watkins says, I'm going to go over the whole thing for pacing, breaths, spot cleaning. Don't remove all your breaths. I say this all the time. If it's an audiobook, leave some breaths in. Take out the big off-putting breaths, or if there's like throat gurgles in them or something, take those out. But don't focus on taking out all of your breaths in an audiobook. You're doing too much. You're wasting too much time on editing those out. Those are gold. Those are what make us human. If you're taking out all your breaths, then you might as well have just gotten it narrated by AI. Good God. Leave them in there. Don't take all your breaths out. If it is medical narration or something other than an audiobook, especially if there's dialogue in the audiobook, my God, leave the breaths in. But if it's medical narration, online course training, maybe once in a while, a little baby breath, in the middle of a sentence is fine. But for the most part, take those out. But for audiobooks, leave them in there. It feels like it's easier to punch and roll. I think it's like a 50-50, 50% of people do punch and roll and 50% do clicker. Maybe slightly. Maybe it's more like 60-40, 55-45 punch and roll versus clicker. I don't know. I like clicker method. Eric says, and I click with my mouth rather than a physical clicker. Yes, some people cluck their tongue. Some people, you can snap your fingers, you can clap. If you have a pen, anything that would make a sharp spike in your waveform that would indicate a retake or whatever it is that you're trying to mark, right? Ahmad Harmon says, hey, Angela, love the channel. Thank you. My first attempt at recording long-form narration was difficult. I could only do 30 minutes on the mic until I felt exhausted. Is this normal in the beginning? Yes. You're not used to it yet. The more you do it, the more you condition yourself, right? Just like anything else that you're learning that's physical, right? If you're never played basketball before, but you want to be on a basketball team, the first time you go out there and you're bouncing the ball around, you're shooting hoops, you're going to be just gassed the very first time. You have to condition yourself. The more and more you do it, the longer you're going to be able to narrate, the more breath control you're going to have, all of the things. So just keep at it. Everything improves with time and practice, as with anything else. Jim says, with one page reads, when I have 3 or more flubs, I redo the whole page. I think you're being way too hard on yourself, Jim. I don't think you need to redo the whole page with just a couple of flubs. Just redo the flubs and keep going. Anne says to Eric, I cannot find a mouth noise that picks up on my mic except every darn smack when I'm trying to not make a noise. Ahmad says, note, I was aiming to record at least an hour, and you will get there. Just keep at it. Just keep at it. Sarah says, including my post-record, edit, mastering, etc., I come out to about 3 to 4 times finished hour. I was podcasting for a decade, though, so I've already climbed the DAW learning curve. Good for you. And you will cut down that ratio, that, the mastering and formatting time. You will definitely cut that down. The more you do it, the more you practice. Diane says, you call them tangents, but you never go off topic. So you're really not tangenting. I think you're a terrific guide for this career. Oh, thank you. I feel sometimes that like a thought comes into my brain and I need to explain this. And then I feel like I'm just totally all over the place, but I'm glad that I'm not too far off. Jim says, self-doubt comes from low self-esteem. Practice helps with that. The longer we do well and get more success, the more confident we become. Absolutely. Eric says, do you know the noise you make when you are frustrated when you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and click it off? That makes sense. I do that 3 times. Yeah, it's like a cluck, right? That kind of a thing. Or a tisk. Whatever works. Whatever makes that spike in your waveform. Lucia says, has anyone tried the eating an apple before recording? Supposedly it helps with the saliva flow. Green apples specifically. I have. Didn't really help me. Some people talk about warm lemon water with honey. Some people just do the tea. Some people use the throat sprays. Again, just water. There's another one that I'm not remembering. There's a few different things that people recommend to do to help reduce mouth noise, but they're not going to work for everyone. They didn't work for me. The only thing that it really worked for me was just buying a plugin, mouth declick plugin. That's the only thing that helped me to reduce that. I always advocate for finding, for whatever problem you have, whatever issue, problem, obstacle, try to find the root cause of that and remove or reduce that if you can, because you don't want to do all of the repair stuff in post with effects if you don't have to, because they all do a little bit of damage to the quality of the audio file. But if you've tried everything else and you cannot solve the root problem, for instance, like if your noise floor is super high and it's the computer fan making the noise, move your computer away. If you can figure out what the cause of the noise of the problem is, try to reduce or remove it before you record, is what I'm getting at. But if you can't, then do what you got to do. And in my case, that was the Mouth Declick plugin. Diane says, what software do you use to mark up a script? Depending on what the script is sent to me on, if it's in PDF, I use Acrobat. If it's Word, I use Word. If a client sends you a document that you don't have access to, I recommend that every voice actor have access to Microsoft Word and also Adobe Acrobat, so you can manage, because those are the two types of formats of scripts that I see most often, is either Word or PDF. But you can convert documents by using Cloud Convert. If you go to cloudconvert.com, you can do that with video files, audio files, document files. You can upload something that you need to convert to something else and tell it what format you want to convert it to, and it'll convert it for you for free, and then you download it, and then you move on with life. So that's a very helpful website. If let's just say a client sends you an EPUB, which is like a publishing sort of a format for a manuscript, and you have no way to open it, upload it into Cloud Convert and tell it that you want to spit it out as a Word document or a PDF, and then there you go. Then you have your Word or PDF. But you can mark up scripts either way. And that's typically what I use. Gregory says, I have confessed to having approached this long-form narration like Mighty Casey, having the processing part kick me in the pants. I am nowhere close to finishing in 18 days. It's a learning curve. And it will continue to be. I mean, there's still stuff that I'm learning. Almost, 7 years later? Always something new to learn. Eric says, sorry, my last comment was an answer to Anne Fritz. That's okay. Lucia says, Google Docs is what I use. That's another good one, Google Docs. Jim says, punch and roll has gotten easy for me, the hard part being to keep the pace and pronunciation right. Caesar says, yes, green apples. Hot water and lemon, Tanya says, sipping. Okay, green apples, green apples. Herbal teas, apart from, if you can't find the throat coat tea, herbal teas work well too. Caesar says, I used to click with my mouth until I discovered 3 horses standing outside my window. Lucia says, I just so happened bought 2 bags of green apples yesterday. See? You knew it. You knew it without knowing it. Jim says, I stick with one character books, bios, inspiration, instructional. That's more my bag, too. I like learning in the process, too. I like to learn in nonfiction. Anne says to chat with Lorna, English practice, and to Jim Williams for consistency. I listen back to the last couple minutes from the previous recording and read along with it and try to get the same vibe. Reading Time with Poppy says, some of the best in book narration don't always nail tone between sessions. I noticed this in the middle of a 20-hour epic fantasy audiobook and then forget within about 10 seconds. Yeah, don't overthink it. We do this to ourselves. Don't overthink these things. Don't ruminate on the wrong things. Don't be so critical of what you're doing. Tongue twisters. Jim says, pronunciation is usually never a problem. If you can read a book from the Old Testament and get through all of those names, you can do most words. Dylan, gosh darn it, school keeps getting canceled, so I have never remember what day it is. Here's the donuts. Thank you, sir. I'll take your donuts. Tanya says, it seemed like if my last author could use a word with an S in it, they did. That brings up my most hated words ever in narration are grasp or grasped and clasped. Not a fan. I hate those words. Dylan says to Tanya, I can help you with mouth noises. I'm great at them. Oh, wait, probably not what you're looking for. Oh, Dylan. Dylan, who's got the hose? Chat with Lorna says to Sarah, if pronunciation challenges make up or have AI make tongue twister, repeat 3 to 5 times as a warm-up to develop muscles for those sounds. That's actually a great point. We talk about ChatGPT and how useful it can be to a voice actor, to everybody in whatever way that you're looking for. But for a voice actor specifically, if you're looking for copy to make demos and samples from, ChatGPT, put in some prompts. Hey, write me or provide me a script of 200 words or 150 words of about a fictional luxury brand or whatever it is. I mean, try it. Go play with ChatGPT and see what it can do for you. But to Lorna's point, you can ask it to write tongue twisters for you. And then you can use those as practice or vocal warm-up. I mean, go use ChatGPT. It'll do a whole lot more than you think it will. And it'll help you. Caesar says, kind of makes you wish we had a swappable throats. What are you talking about, Caesar? Christine says, but your tangulants are informative. Ah, yes, traditional medicine. Thank you. That is the name of the brand, Throat Coat Tea. Thank you very much, Lorna. Caesar says, Grether's pastilles are awesome. Ricola, and Valda are also quite tasty. I've never heard of Valda's before. Fox's crystal clear mints don't do much but taste amazing. Sean says, live in the country that is usually quiet, but my road is currently being used as a detour for another road that's under construction. At least it's temporary. I mean, you got that to look forward to. Having to edit out so much noise lately from traffic. Not a whole lot of clients can wait long enough for construction detours, but do you have any idea when it's going to be done? I mean, could you put it off until then? Because that would really stink for consistency too, to keep everything sounding the same. Caesar says, I love milestone rewards. I complete a book, then I buy a new microphone. Of course. Lorna says, have a great week, everyone. Thanks for the great tips. I appreciate it. Remember to like this video. Yes, please. As Caesar says, smash the like button. Remove, peel, mince, add 3 pounds pork cubes. He's making you a recipe. Ahmad says, just a general question for anyone. What is a clicker? It is a dog training clicker. You can get these at any local pet store, pet shop. You can get them on Amazon. I think I got a 2-pack of these for, I think it was like $5, $10. I can't remember which, but they've lasted me. I mean, this one I've had for probably 3 years. So they last forever, but it has a little button in it and it just makes a little clicky noise. It's meant for training animals to do tricks or behave, basically. Drew says, and keep your chair well oiled. Yes, having a quiet chair is definitely a plus. Let's see. Lorna says, warm water with a tablespoon vinegar or pickle juice, like a brine, gargle, and swallow for excessive mucus to clear before vocal warm-up. Interesting. Paul says, try doing a detective mystery that was supposed to be about 9,300 words, but turned out to be 43,000. Every moment is palpable, and every chapter they capture remnants of the same gang in a warehouse. Wow. But you brought up a great point. Whenever you're talking to somebody online no matter what platform you're on, if you have the opportunity to ask to see the script before you accept an offer or make an offer, before you talk money or quotes of any kind, if you have the opportunity to see or ask for the manuscript before, verify the word count. There have been many times where clients have said, yeah, it's a book of 10,300 words. And then we talk, it'll be this much and I can have it done in this amount of days. And then they say, okay, great, let's do it. All right, cool. May I see the manuscript before we get started? I want to see if I have any questions or if there's anything that we need to work out. And I also want to verify the word count to make sure that the quote that I'm giving you is accurate, right? It's not just benefiting you as the voice actor, it's benefiting the client to make sure that you're accurately quoting the appropriate amount of work to be done, right? That you're not overcharging or undercharging. You want it to be accurate, fair. And then they send you the manuscript and it was 109,300 words, right? They omitted a number somewhere in the original post and maybe they didn't see it. Maybe it was intentional. More often than not, it was just a little whoopsie, right? They fat-fingered it on the keyboard. But as a professional, definitely verify it. And then also read, skim through the content and see if it's something that you're even comfortable narrating. It could be perhaps the client said it was a vanilla romance, and you're fine with vanilla romance, but once you get the manuscript and you see it's not quite vanilla, it's maybe a little bit more red velvet romance, and then you're not comfortable with that, then you will at that time say, hey, our definitions of vanilla are a little bit different, so I might have to pass on this one. Or maybe they did omit a number somewhere in the original estimated word count, right? It does happen. So if you have the opportunity to verify that before you agree to a price or send a contract or accept a contract, then it will definitely benefit you. It's happened many times. Tanya says, how do you know when it's time to increase the per finished hour price on books? You'll feel it. You'll feel it. I think there really isn't like a set time. I have gone with a rule of thumb. Once you're comfortable increasing your pricing, or even if you're getting too busy, right? If you have too much work, if you ever get to that point where you have too much work, it might be time to increase your pricing. Or especially with audiobooks, I think once I got my first 10 done, I increased my pricing. And then once I got 20 done, I increased it again by $50, $100 an hour or per finished hour in whatever increments you choose. You'll know. Once you're more confident, once you have that feeling of accomplishment and that you're confident in what you can do, increase your prices. Faux show. Voiceover Van Deen says, I find a splash of apple cider vinegar. I've heard that one too. In your booth water bottle helps to cut through any sticky, claggy, phlegmy, as long as he didn't say moist. But that's a great idea. I've heard that too, and I'm going to try that. I think I'll have to get some more apple cider vinegar and test it out and see what you guys, or tell you guys how it goes. Is that English? Got a lot of no Caesars and Dylans. All right. Okay, cool. This last hour, more than an hour, has gone by so quickly. As you know, these weekly chats are always based on your comments, your questions, things that you guys want to talk about. So if there's anything, any burning questions, or if there's a topic that perhaps that you're just a little confused about, or something that you want to talk more about as a group, or just to get my take on it, then put it in the comments below. But I always appreciate you guys taking the time to spend some time with me on Tuesdays and talk about these topics. Your insight is valuable. And look how many people we've helped by getting together weekly and having these conversations. So give yourselves a pat on the back for me. But I will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. So everyone have a great week. Bye. Thank you for listening to She Lancer Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. That's me. For more information about me, visit my website, voiceoverangela.com, or hop on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. Again, thanks for listening. Have a great day.